Hello, hello. This is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about a bit about this woman being found guilty and sentenced to some jail time for stealing Ashley Biden's diary. And what's so strange about the whole diary situation is, I guess we're just not denying that it's a real, I suppose. And there's some reports about it. Not much talking about what's in it though. um so we'll talk a little bit about that today because I didn't really think um at first when people started talking about it, I didn't give much thought to it maybe being real until they were willing to arrest people over it. So there's that. Also, we will be talking about this fall with the Arizona Supreme Court ruling that they could roll back to this very old law in the books regarding, basically it would make it so that abortion is legal except for in the cases of life of the mother. And Kari Lake made a statement about that. Trump was asked about it, and people are defending them. People are upset about it. So we're going to go through that today. Also, celebrity non-binary kids and just how silly it all is. And if I have time, I want to get to this tweet that Lauren Chin had posted and then deleted and stuff. So I'll leave that on the tail end. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to check out the website, articles, videos, etc. that's on the page. If you like what I do here, you can consider leaving a donation at the website, blacktnews.com, because it does cost a stream, room, and website, all that good stuff. You guys can check out also different merch that we have available online, like I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For, You Better But Not Bitter, and other stuff as well. And also my books, different books that I've written. Also, I do have what does she say was the code? My sister, I asked her, she makes those little mini art pieces, and I post pictures of them sometimes and on my YouTube and other social media. And she did the book cover for, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So my sister is the one who drew the hand of God reaching out to the hand of the baby here. So she has a special discount for my followers. I think it's Black Tea 15, and her website is Tina's Text Portraits. I will double check with that, but I will post it online. So that'll be good until the end of April. So if anyone's interested in any of her like little pieces or bigger pieces, whatever you would like, there's 15% off if you would like, because you're a listener and I have that kind of pull because I'm big sister. So wanted to just let you guys know about that. Also, if you're in the Metro Detroit area, in May, I don't remember the date, but just next month is Motor City Comic Con. I think it's in the middle of the month. I'm thinking it's probably like the 17th, 18th, and 19th. I will have a booth there, and my sister also have a booth there, but I'll be selling some of my books and she'll be selling her artwork. So if you're in the Metro Detroit area, hope to see you guys there, and I'll let you know more about it as we get a little bit closer. Anyway, let's hop to it with the news. So thought originally when there was some news, some rumblings coming out about Ashley Biden's diary, that it was it seemed a little too not good, because obviously it's a terrible thing, some of the stuff that was in there, but like I was gonna say too good to be true, but more kind of like more too crafted from the right, like the thing to fall in their lap. Like, here's Ashley Biden writing that Joe Biden, her father, had inappropriate showers with her. I'm like, that sounds kind of too unbelievable, too kind of weird to be true, or a little too on the nose for the allegations that people were making. And I'm like, I'm not going to really engage with that as it was floating out kind of on the internet. Then there was the like Project Veritas being raided, and the other person, their place being raided, and arrest going out for what, a fake diary. That didn't sound right. That didn't sound right. So anyway, this story is in the news. This story was in the news. Florida woman sentenced to a month in jail for selling Biden's daughter's diary. So not a long, super long time, but you can imagine this has been a long, stressful process. But she's still going to jail. Uh, this is from the AP. A Florida mother who was sentenced Tuesday to a month in prison and 3 months of home confinement for stealing and selling President Joe Biden's daughter's diary 4 years ago to the conservative group Project Veritas. And Project Veritas, they didn't run with it because they couldn't. I think the story was that they had left it. She didn't even like, the story originally wasn't that like she snuck into the White House and stole the diary or something like that. It was they left it behind somewhere, and she was going to sell it to Project Veritas. But Project Veritas couldn't really validate it enough that they wanted to trust it to really run with the story. But it became a big story once there was this legal backlash from authorities for this diary. So Amy Harris was sentenced in Manhattan federal court by Judge Laura Taylor Swain, who called the Palm Beach, Florida woman's actions despicable. Harris pleaded guilty to a conspiracy charge in August 2022, admitting that she received 20,000 of the 40,000 that was paid by Project Veritas for personal items belonging to the president's daughter, Ashley Biden. Project Veritas, founded in 2010, identifies itself as a news organization. It is best known for conducting hidden camera stings that have embarrassed news outlets, labor organizations, and Democratic politicians. A tearful Harris apologized for enabling Ashley Biden's private writings to be sold after she found the diary and other items at a friend's Delray Beach, Florida home in 2020, where the prosecutor said Ashley Biden believed her items were safely stored after she temporarily stayed there in spring of 2020. Um, why would you? This is a weird family. Like Hunter Biden having so much crap, dirty videos, bank access to bank stuff that was just a nightmare for their family, that they obviously suppressed, but or tried to, and left it at a computer shop. And I think there was like three different computers that ended up being like with taken from his possession altogether, but just left it at a repair shop. So eventually it became the repair shop guy's property, and he sent it to the government because he was concerned about the contents in it and didn't hear back anything. So then he reached out to political operatives like Rudy Giuliani, when he didn't think anything was being done. So you have Hunter leaving laptops with incriminating stuff in it, and you have Ashley Biden's leaving her diary at a friend's house. Why would you do that? Like, why isn't your diary with you? Especially when you write such provocative things in there. I don't have a diary. And I think the only one of us in my family who kept a diary is my sister Katrina. And she doesn't have like any secrets, really. She one time she's like, do you want to, and she like translates it in a alien language. It's like a comic book language. So you're gonna have to decipher it if you want to read it. It's in Kryptonian, and it's a and she like let me read it one time, and it was really boring. It was really boring. Like she talked like, hi diary, I bought you on such and such day. No, no, no. So, I but a lot of people, they journal their thoughts and their feelings, etc. So I get that people have the diaries, but to leave it there again, if you didn't hear what kind of stuff was in it, she did talk about that her father had inappropriate showers, or showers that she thought was inappropriate with her. So, anyway, let's keep reading. I do not believe I'm above the law, Harris said after a prosecutor urged a prison sentence following her failure to appear at numerous sentencing dates on the grounds that she was consumed with caring for her two children, ages 8 and 6. I'm a survivor of long-term domestic abuse and sexual trauma, she told the judge. With a lawyer for Ashley Biden observing the courtroom's spectator section, Harris apologized to the president's daughter, saying she regrets making her childhood and life public. In announcing the sentence, Swain noticed that Harris and the co-defendant Robert Kurlander, a nearby Jupiter, Florida, had first tried unsuccessfully to sell Ashley Biden's belongings to then President Donald Trump's 2020 presidential campaign. The judge said that Harris, besides being motivated by greed, had hoped to impact the nation's political landscape. And she really had to pay for that, huh? Kurlander, who has not yet been sentenced, and Harris had each pleaded guilty to conspiracy to transport stolen property across state lines. Defense attorney Anthony Chucudi urged no prison time, citing his client's traumatic life and her efforts to care for her children while recovering from abuse and violence. She carries the shame and stigma of her actions, he said. Assistant U.S. Attorney Robert Sobelman urged a prison sentence, saying Harris had exhibited a pattern of disrespect for the law and the justice system. As Harris is not the victim of this case, Sobelman said, Ms. Biden is the victim in this case. He said Harris, in the summer of 2020, had stolen Ashley Biden's diary, digital storage card, books, clothing, luggage, and everything she could to get her hands on, in the hopes that she could make as much money as she could. She wanted to damage Miss Biden's father. He said Harris was told to report to prison in July. She left the courthouse. She declined to speak. The lawyer for Ashley Biden also declined to comment, though he submitted a letter to the judge on his client's behalf a day earlier that was not immediately put in the court record. So that's the whole article from the AP about the sentencing. Notice it did not mention what was in there that was so embarrassing for the president. And maybe they totally, I would assume, thinks that it matters. So they're covering the story, but not really talking about what's in it. Like you see right wing media like mentioning it. And I think at first, when there were allegations about the diary coming out, people weren't really talking about it too much because it just kind of seems so obscure. Like someone got Ashley Biden's diary and it says she had showers with their dad. That was inappropriate. Yeah, it said that. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Um and it goes, of course there's like other embarrassing sort of details and stuff that I assume I know you really wouldn't want out for her family. But I didn't think much of it when people were like circulating it. It probably just kind of remained a conspiracy in my mind until they're like, oh no, we got to punish people. We got to shut this down. So uh when people talk about things going on with Trump, there's always weirder things that can be said about Joe Biden. There's always weirder things that could be said about Joe Biden. There was a tweet from one of the Crassersons about the diary and tried to downplay it. Let me see if I can find it really quick. I know I retweeted it, called him a creep. Um, they just try to act like it was normal. And there's all these people like, nope, that is definitely not normal. Found it. Found it. Definitely not normal. Just taking you know, showers with your daughter like that. So it was Ed said there are plenty of fathers who have been in the same shower as their young daughters. Virtually all pediatricians and children's psychologists support it up to a certain age. And what? I mean, people like, how is this still up? Um we really should delete this. Uh You say I want to shower with you. She's just a child. My friend's a pediatrician. He said it was cool. So um people were like, no. And some people said like maybe if they had swimsuits on or something. But usually you should, leave that to mom, or if she's of a certain age, she can certainly shower by herself. Um, but there's a reason why she thought it was inappropriate and was scarred by it enough to put in her diary. So uh anyway, that's that story. I guess it's real, but just, but they don't want to talk about what's in it. So people bring up, you know, Jean Carroll and all that stuff. You could be like, have you heard about Ashley Biden's diary? Because there's a lot of people that say like hearsay kind of stuff with Trump, but we got this creepy thing that's right in the diary. So just want to leave that out there in the atmosphere. Poor woman, though. Poor woman. By the way, there was also, I think it was something that was recovered, I think, in the Hunter Biden laptop or something. There was messages and they were calling someone pedo Peter. And it was speculated that it was Joe Biden because Peter something was one of his like alias names or something. So if there's like family calling him that, that's, there's just a lot of weird things besides the sniffing kids. Anyway, I'm not saying he committed any crimes out there, but I'm saying I would rather he was not the president. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. So yesterday there was another big splash with the whole abortion debate. So Monday, Trump decided to put out a statement. I wasn't crazy about the statement. We talked about it basically for the first hour of the show. That's only supposed to be an hour. And I gave my thoughts on it. I think I'm going to do maybe another video that's a little more concise, something that's more shareable. But Trump said that it's a states' rights issue, right? Abortion. That's how he's going to look at it. Some people are upset about him not doing a 15-week ban or something federally. It's amazing to me because Mike Pence and other people, even Ben Shapiro, said like, would I like for him to do something like a 15-week ban? They say yes. And so to me, that's strange. To me, that's very strange. And maybe because people are like, oh, if the babies are bigger and that'd be really terrible, we need to save them. People think about a bigger baby, they can get on board with trying to save a bigger baby. And then, but the left will always say like, okay, but abortions after like 20 weeks or something. You're talking about like 1.3% or something of abortion. So still, a lot of babies killed. We're talking about thousands, tens, maybe 10,000 or so killed. Um, so yeah, you could say who you can, but if Republicans are pushing for 15 weeks and like that's the limit, that's the compromise right there, you do realize that that's would be like 95% of abortions, right? Maybe more. So I think Democrats would be crazy to not take Republicans up on that offer. But I think Republicans are crazy for making that offer. Because it doesn't really sound like protecting life is your thing. It's just at a certain, maybe at a certain point you view it as far too barbaric to have the abortion, and that's why you want to, save a couple of thousands of babies and let the other hundreds of thousands go. So, um, beyond thinking about the gestational ages, like think about the numbers and think about the percentages of what that would be. Because yeah, the pro-choice movement is right when they say like a small percentage are done after even the first trimester. So if we settle on a 15-week, I don't see how that is significantly less barbaric than what the Democrats are trying to do up till, well, people say moment of birth, but that's technically what they're advocating for. But um, I say you should frame it as healthy women should be able to abort healthy, viable fetuses. So a 15-week one isn't good either. And I would have been upset if Trump had pitched that, but he went the whole, it's a states' rights thing. It's a states' rights thing. So the day after, the Supreme Court in Arizona made a ruling, and so they ruled that a law can go into an effect that is very, very, very old, and it's going to roll back abortion laws to the point where you can only allow in the case of the mother's life is in danger. And so people are upset about it and they think it's too far, they think it's too restrictive. And Kari Lake came out against it. And some people, I watched Ben's show today and he talked about it. His response was really weak tea to me. It was really weak tea to me because he didn't really have much to say about her in a negative sense for her response. I'm going to make this go whole screen because I don't want you guys to see me squinting. But she said, following today's Arizona Supreme Court's abortion ruling, Kari Lake released his following statement. In addition to covering the state of Arizona as fair and honest journalist for 27 years, I have traveled to every corner of the state on the campaign trail. I speak to more Arizonans than anyone, and it is abundantly clear that the pre-statehood law is out of step with Arizonians. I am the only woman and mother in this race. I understand the fear and anxiety of pregnancy and the joy of motherhood. I wholeheartedly agree with President Trump that this is a personal issue that should be determined by each individual state and her people. I oppose today's ruling, and I am calling on Katie Hobbs and the state legislature to come up with an immediate common sense solution that Arizonians can support. Ultimately, Arizona voters will make the decision on their ballot come November. As your senator, I will oppose federal funding for abortion, federal bans on abortion. As your senator, I will fight for baby bonuses, making adoption more accessible and affordable, strengthening the economy so that mothers can afford a baby, protecting IVF, extending the child tax credit, paid family leave, investing in childcare. I am not going to DC to legislate an issue that has been returned to the states. I'm going to DC to secure our border, strengthen our families, and help President Trump make America great again. So that was her statement. And so Ben was kind of like, yeah, so she's signaling here that this is a state's issue, and she's, trying to keep it out of that hands because she's going on a federal level, and people can distinguish what's state and what's federal. She's not running as a state legislature; she's running as a state senator, not a state senator, but going to the federal level, right? But the issue here with people continuously saying that it's a states' rights issue is when they go and they trash pro-life things happening at the state level. So this follow your heart thing that Trump kind of was like the other day, and it's a personal decision. I suppose that too would be a personal decision, right? And I'd have to answer. People will say, and they'll have to answer it to God if they make that decision. And I still, if I murdered you, I'd have to answer. I should have the right to do it. that it should be facilitated. Is it a person? It's not even a personal choice because they advocate not Kari Lake, but people advocate that taxpayer dollars should fund it or something. Some people will say like, oh, well, you guys should, if you really are pro-life, you'd fight for universal health care. But they'll say abortion is health care. And I'm like, you're going to want universal health care to pay for abortions. I'm not stupid. Like, I know what you eventually want. You just want me to not fight against this issue. And then also make sure that you can't, oh gosh, I see something is wrong with YouTube. Okay, I'm back live again. It says, sorry about that. Don't know what happened. Hope you guys are still there. I just got an alert that there was an issue. I'm like, oh my gosh, they took it down because of Ashley Biden's diary. But it looks like you guys are still commenting, so I guess it's all good. But it's not really a personal issue because they want you to help facilitate it, celebrate in some cases, etc. It's really not a personal thing. That's one of the reasons why I made this shirt on my website. It's like my money, my business. Actually, that is the reason why I made it. You can apply it to other things, but you don't tell me it's not my business when you want taxpayer dollars to help fund it or subsidize it or whatever. Don't tell me it's not any of my business. So this whole it's a personal thing, as if there's not another human being involved. I personally will not have a conversation about abortion that ignores the fact that there's a human being that's being killed in the process. And there should be no conversation that anyone who claims to be pro-life, or an abolitionist, or a Republican who claims that they are on the right side of this issue, no conversation should ever forget that there is a human being killed in the middle of that. So if that's a personal decision to Kari Lake, she's got it all wrong. But she was a Democrat just not too long ago, but then she decided to go the election was stolen route, and then all of a sudden she's a MAGA darling. So we got to rethink how we vet some of these candidates. She's a fantastic speaker, knows how to work a crowd. And I've praised many of her videos because just how she came at the media. But I've had some words for Kari Lake as well. And it seems like she really wants to go ahead and she wants to win. But this isn't the right sort of statement. And I understand she wants to put people's minds at ease or whatever, but she's like, oh, I've talked to all these people. This is out of step with the people of Arizona. You have to there's going to be a referendum. In the meantime, you can say oh, well, they're going to protect life, at least, which will probably not enforce the law, and they'll probably just kind of wait to the end of the year to see how the people are going to decide. And in Arizona, I'm not very optimistic that they're going to decide on the side of life. One, because it is such a swing state. The Republican Party is basically demolished there, so I don't think they'll have good ground game for the opposition of it. And I don't think they'll try to fight it too hard because I don't know, they probably want to avoid the super dim turnout to impact Kari's race or Trump's race. So I don't see them fighting for the correct position here. And the correct position is it's wrong to kill babies. It's it's not a personal decision. But again, if you're gonna come out and say, like, why make a statement? Like, I know people would be asking. People still maybe might not believe her one way or another. But why give the impression that you don't like this law? I mean, other than the fact that she, I guess, doesn't really like it. She really doesn't like it. If it's in the people's hands, it's in the people's hands. And the people have their say. And I understand you're not going to do something federal, but you still have a vote. So what are you going to decide? And what do you think that what kind of compromise do you think the legislature should put in place that you support? Would it be the same thing except exceptions for rape and incest, like Trump keeps claiming? But even the Florida bill that has those exceptions and more, Trump thought was terrible. So I would assume that they would want to maybe put back in place. I don't know what, I mean, I would assume Katie Hobbs would basically want no restrictions, but because she wouldn't really say that she wanted restrictions when she was running for governor. But the law that was on the books before, which was signed by a Republican governor, was 15 weeks. So if that's what they end up reinstating, again, we might go, oh, that's a pro-life victory. Some babies were saved. Again, FYI, like 94% of abortions are done before 15 weeks. And then if you still tack on like those other exceptions, like life of the mother, medical, whatever, you're getting like another percentage or so. So you'd still be having like 95% of abortions take place. And she used this phrase, she said common sense solution. I understand Arizona might not be in lockstep with what just happened, but what do you think is common sense? What is common sense when it comes to taking a life? What is common sense, Kari? What is common sense on this issue? And sometimes people are like, oh, this is so extreme. I'm like, explain why it's extreme. You have to explain. You have to explain why it's extreme. Because the way to maximize the most liberty on the issue is that if both lives can live, both should live. There's a lot of things that our government does and gets involved in that isn't really their prerogative. Protecting life is one of the things that they're supposed to do. It's an inalienable right. Governments are formed to protect those inalienable rights, according to our Declaration of Independence. So I would say that the government not protecting life is violating their very purpose of existence, to be frank. People, oh, that's none of the government's business. Making sure that you have paid family leave is kind of outside their scope, Kari. I understand why you want to do it. I understand why people want it. And nothing's wrong with paid family leave. I just don't think that if a business can't afford it, I don't think people should put some kind of demands on a business, or it should be something that's necessarily a burden to the taxpayers or something. So I don't, what kind of legislation they want to enforce on people, we'll have to see. But those are ways that they want to get more involved, on a government level. But protecting life is actually why you exist, Care. It's why you exist. So no, I didn't like her statement here. If you're going to say it's a states' rights issue, fine. But do not undermine pro-life state legislation. Do not undermine pro-life victories. Stop doing it. Let's look at what Trump said about it when he was asked. Sorry. It's the wrong.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, did Arizona go too far? Did Arizona go too far?
Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly.
What do you think about Florida?
Florida's probably maybe going to change also. See, it's all of what it's the will of the people. This is what I've been saying. It's a perfect system. So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. It's the will of the people. So Florida's probably going to change. Arizona's going to definitely change. Everybody wants that to happen. And you're getting the will of the people. It's been pretty amazing when you think.
So the will of the people, the will of the people. It's the will of the people. It's the will of the people. If the will of the people was on the ballot to, I don't know, re-enslave black people or something like that, I don't think everybody would be like, oh, that's a cool decision. Will of the people. I think we'd be pretty disturbed as a nation if people could feel that they could get to that point. And I feel like we're at a pretty disturbing point right now. And to be frank with you, I don't, in Arizona, I don't foresee I'm not saying people shouldn't fight. We should always fight for the right thing. But you have some people who are supposed to be fighters on this issue who are influencing the culture in a negative way. They really are. So he said he thinks Arizona will change, and that's a fact. It's a likely outcome. Okay. So if he's just trying to be factual, that's pretty much the truth. But the Florida will probably change, he said. Why not say that, we're going to fight, the people of Florida, DeSantis, I'm sure they'll fight to uphold life. They'll fight to save the babies. But we do know that he already called the Florida 6-week ban terrible or horrible. One of the two. More than once. And he says, now he said that the Supreme Court, going by the law, made the wrong decision or was gone too far. And he probably thinks they do because he thinks you need the rape, incest exceptions. It already has life of the mother. Okay, so he thinks that you need those exceptions. Florida has those exceptions, but he still doesn't like the bill. It just has... It has other exceptions too, but it has 6 weeks. So it is a compromise that he would like 15 weeks. There were reports prior to Monday's announcement that Trump was going to push some kind of 15-week or whatever. And maybe Lindsey Graham was trying to talk him into it or something because Lindsey Graham said something to him. And then he came at Lindsey Graham for disagreeing with him. Shot him down because he still wanted 15 weeks. Again, calling for 15 weeks is just saying that, okay, we're going to save like 5% of the babies, if even. And then you get to pat yourself on the back and say, we did a good job, pro-life America. That's kind of absurd. And they'll say, oh, but those Democrats, they're so immoral. Because they want to kill 5% more than you do? Come on, guys. Come on. And I understand that people are like, politically, they have to do this. Trump has to say this. Kari Lake has to say this because they're going to come at him and the Democrats want to use this. It doesn't matter because they're going to use it anyway. They're going to use it anyway. There was a headline about Trump saying that it should be left up to the states. The Biden administration people were upset about it, criticized. I think they updated the headline and changed the headline. And the media is talking about it the way that the Biden administration wants them to talk about it. So Trump could be like, no, we should just abortion's fine. And they'll be like, he's lying. He got rid of Roe v. Wade. They don't care. If this is the issue that was going to make you not vote for Trump, and I'm sure there's people out there who are like, you know what, I was thinking about it, but this is the issue where I can't do that for him. There's people out there, I'm sure. But to think that this is the reason why he's gonna lose the election, I just can't believe that. But what's interesting to me that I have to say, and I'm gonna maybe tick some people off here, is that it's incredible to me that people think that this is the issue that we need to sacrifice on because it's too controversial and you have to do what's popular and you don't want it to weigh him down. But Trump couldn't do that for himself all throughout the time he's been president or running. I mean, there were things that he flipped on, in the moment for headlines or whatever, including like how he dealt with COVID and other stuff. So he can go with the way of the wind. But when it comes to like something that's controversial that the media kept harping on is like the election being stolen. There were candidates who were like trying to back away from that narrative. I think Abe was it Abe? No, it wasn't Abe. Somebody else who was running in Arizona. And Trump's just like, no, you have to keep talking about stolen election. And it was stolen. You have to say it was stolen. You have to, you can't like pussyfoot around it. You have to say it. Because that's what Trump wants to be said. And if you try to back away, midterms, when there were some people losing, Trump was like, well, it's because you didn't say the thing. Basically seemed to be glad that some people lost because they flipped on him with the election stolen narrative or didn't say it as strongly as he wanted. Or people talk his tweets like, I'll take his mean tweets as long as my gas is $2. Okay, but people, still the way he talks and carries himself sometimes, and the media like exaggerates so much stuff, but he could tamp it down. He could to win, to make himself a better, more attractive candidate. There's lots of things that Trump could have done throughout the years to make himself more appealing for this 2024 run. But the thing that we have to give up now is saving lives. Or what about all of his indictments? And we can go, oh, well, those are all fake and they're just coming at him. They're a huge drain financially. So much of his time sucked up in court. And it could get better, could get worse. There's stuff about to start. I don't know how many cases are going to fall apart. It seems like the New York one is about to, get ready to go on, which that one is like the dumbest. It is the dumbest one. It's still happening. Trump didn't go, well, you know what? I got a lot of stuff going on for the good of America. I don't want to make myself a big distraction. I'm going to handle my business and hopefully someone else will come in and save America and I'll back a good candidate. He said, no, I'm going to run and everyone's going to have to fight. I'll fight for you guys, but you have to fight for me. There was no, I will sacrifice myself to stop Joe Biden. So this is a big ask to be like, we got to throw out the baby and the bathwater in the bloody bathwater. It's not right. I understand pragmatism. I understand people trying to be political. I get it. But at what point, at what year, at what time is it appropriate to fight? At what point? Because let's say you get your 15 weeks. Because again, it's kind of crazy for the Democrats not to take them up on the offer, especially if there's like exceptions for mental health and they make it so broad that it's like financial health and other kind of, just basically make it so that all abortions pretty much happen anyway. what if they went along with that? At what point would Republicans be like, okay, it's time to, we got that 15 that we fought really hard for. So now we need to dial it back down to 6. People be like, what the heck? I thought it was settled. You guys said 15. How would we ever get to none? Besides, like Life of the Mother and stuff. How would we dial that back? We make ourselves look like liars. And if we want to say this is the point and then we keep going. But I think the reality is that if you get that thing that you negotiate on, especially at a federal level, then you're probably not going to go backwards. I think it would. You're probably more likely to have a very large gap and roll it back than be in the middle and then move it all the way toward the end. That's what I would think. So what's Donald Trump could say he supports a 39-week ban with exceptions. Life News and Charlie Kirk would clap and cry tears of joy. I'm thinking I would say Life News. Life News has they've reposted some of my articles that were kind of more critical. So I don't know if that's fair of Life News, but Charlie Kirk has, said he made a good statement on Monday. And he said most pro-life people I talked to said this was a good statement. And I'm like, Lila Rose eviscerated him. It's not hard to find the statement from the founder of Live Action. I would say her opinion kind of is a big deal with her organization. And I think the Susan B. Anthony, I didn't see their statement, but I heard they weren't happy. So, again, if it's a states' rights issue, stop crapping on pro-life victories that are statewide and fight for more statewide pro-life victories. But I feel at this point, and I hope he, I don't know, redeems himself. I hope I get to say I was wrong. But at this point, it just kind of looks like he's probably going to be a detriment to the effort in Florida to defeat the ballot initiative to enshrine abortion up to 24 weeks or whatever. And it is possible to defeat it because it's they got to get 60%. But if you have the head, I don't think he's the head of the moral movement or whatever, anything like that. But he's the top of the ticket. He does live in Florida. So he's going to have to vote on that legislation himself. Kari Lake is going to have to vote on the legislation herself. And it seems like they're against the pro-life thinking here. And that they are going to be a detriment to success. So I don't like it, guys. Obviously, I don't like it. And some people are saying that after Trump's little statement there today that he lost their vote, and some people, a friend of mine was just like, oh, so you're going to not support Trump. And they said, I won't vote for Trump because he realizes the federal government has no business in legislating abortion and it should be left to the states. I would rather Trump lose and the Dems win to push full-term abortions via government funding. Sometimes you got to translate the stupid, is what he said. And I said, I think people are upset that he says it's a state issue and then just goes on to undermine everything. And again, if they did a federal ban and it was 15 weeks, most of the abortions, assuming if a federal ban, now if a federal ban was like there can be no abortions past 15 weeks, but states can still decide to protect babies earlier, then that's different. But I don't know why a Democrat would agree to that. Democrats wouldn't agree to that. But if there was a federal ban that overrided all state legislation, which I don't know how what I don't know if that would stand up to scrutiny at the Supreme Court anyway. Um, but if it could override all that legislation, and make it so that no one could protect life until 15 weeks after, that would be something that the Democrats would be crazy not to want to go with. So I want these folks to be better, do better. Last thing I want to say at this topic before moving on, Jesse Kelly tweeted out, "It's critically important to vote GOP this November. Our country is at stake. Who else can you trust to stop the spending, crack down on the FBI, and hold the COVID lockdown people responsible? Who else will repeal Obamacare? Who else will defund Planned Parenthood?" And some people didn't seem to understand that that was a joke. And yeah, so yeah, but we keep saying we need power and we don't wield it very well. I mean, probably the biggest thing that happened was the Supreme Court justice, Trump being able to pick 3 Supreme Court justices because McConnell wielded power and was like, "Now we're not going to see Garland. Nope, not going to do it." They held out, and it was a bold move that was a big risk because Trump could have lost and Hillary could have appointed somebody, but the gamble paid off. And they made sure Amy Coney Barrett came through really quickly, and they got their 3 justices that were able to 3 additional justices that was able to help in the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And that was people were like, he's the most pro-life president because he picked these people. I credit to him for picking the people off the list that the Federal Society gave him. I do give him credit for that. But we also have to give credit to the Federal Society for making that list, for the senators for, voting that way, for the justices for actually writing the opinion, and McConnell and the Republicans for holding out to make it possible. I don't see a lot of people like, Trump deserves all the credit in the world, going, McConnell deserves all the credit in the world. I don't see that. They just bring that up to, uplift Trump. But it was a big team effort, guys. It really was. It really was, including all the people who knocked doors and worked tirelessly to see Trump elected, which I was one of those people who really, really worked hard in the Michigan Republican Party during that time. So he's not the sole person savior of the pro-life movement, because he did something that hopefully most Republicans would have likely done in that sort of situation. But the Republicans, they still spend too much money. And Trump is not going to not spend money. He's just not, guys. Nothing with Social Security would probably be done because Trump doesn't want to touch it. They want to make that an issue of Republicans aren't going to touch it. There are problems with Social Security, but I guess everyone's just going to kick the can down the road until it all just kind of explodes. No accountability for COVID, because Trump still brags about being the father of the vaccine and all that stuff, and he did help to lock down the country. I don't know what they're going to do with the FBI and other stuff like that. So, but we'll probably get another temporary tax cut, though, and gas will probably go down. That'll be good. There'll be good things about the Trump presidency for sure. The crisis at the border, pausing. And I say pause because I don't know what legislatively they're going to be able to really put through. There'll be things that he'll do executive order wise that he did probably while he was president before. But if he just does things by executive order, you're going to run into the issue of someone coming in later and being able to undo what he did. So, I want to know what we stand for. I want to know what we stand for. Because if we're just going by what's common sense, and what's popular, we don't really have an ideology, right? It's just the mob, Anyway, Ben Affleck's daughter is now identifying as non-binary, and I don't know. People are reporting that she came out at her grandfather's funeral, and I don't know if that's the moment when she announced that she was trans or not trans, but non-binary. But there's also someone else in the little J-Lo family that is non-binary. So it is a trendy sort of social contagion going on in the country, in Hollywood for sure. The chances of that kind of just organically happening, them, being born that way or whatever, is obviously silly. But these folks, many of them really want to be seen. And it's very interesting to me that people want to be seen so badly that they identify as something that doesn't exist. Isn't that interesting? And if you say there's no such thing as being non-binary, they'll say, how dare you question my existence? I'm like, I'm talking to you. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm not crazy. So how am I saying you don't exist? I'm saying you're wrong. I'm saying you believe something that's not true. You either have the male, the smaller, the larger gamete, the egg or the sperm. Sex is a binary. It's definitely not a non-binary. So it's silly. But I saw something the other day. Michael Knowles had a conversation at one of his, sometimes when he does like different events at schools, sometimes he'll be able to talk to the protesters afterwards. And so I wanted to do a reaction to their actual content, but I just didn't get around to it. But I watched this the other day. I think it was this past weekend while I was cooking. And I thought it was so interesting for this transgender person and this non-binary person to explain why they were the way they were. So it's already past the point here in the video that I'm going to play where the man who identifies as a woman explained why he believes he's a woman. But I just wanted to at least show you guys this part with this woman who says she's non-binary and explain her thinking. So where this is coming from and the mentality of it.
I'm not proud to say that I grew up in an abusive household and I also happen to be trans. I don't want to feel that statistic, but I'm also not going to be dishonest about my upbringing.
Yeah. Now you are not trans.
I am.
You're just
trans.
You're trans too?
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not.
I am.
So what are you?
I'm non-binary.
Oh, all right. I don't mean to be different, but you're not saying you're a man.
I'm not saying I'm a man now.
And you would have at some point in your life said you're a woman.
I don't think I ever said I was a woman.
A little girl. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
You did. Okay. But then when did you decide you're non-binary?
I didn't know what transgender or non-binary was until I was 14, 15.
Most people had not heard of it until recently.
I mean, it existed, but I hadn't heard of it.
I suppose we'll perhaps agree to disagree on that.
You don't think it existed until recently?
No, I think people have been confused about their sex, and I think they've had all sorts of aberrant desires for all of history. but I don't think it's a real category, basically. So I don't mean it in any disrespectful way. I just don't think I don't think it's possible to have a male body but be a female, because I don't think that's how body and soul or how identity actually works.
So I think what we're saying is that transgenderism, let's just say as an ideology, has existed for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
The first books that were burned in the Holocaust were about transgender people, about sexual studies.
Well, yeah, there was all sorts of sort of sexual, and it goes back obviously much further than the 1940s. People had these desires, but it is
yes.
I suppose the difference would be transvestitism has existed for all of history, always been sort of, cabarets and red light districts and things like that. But the ideology, meaning the view that a man could say he really is a woman, or a woman could say she really is multiple, they or them, or not either a man or a woman. That's a relatively new ideology.
No.
Not the behavior,
actually.
but
we have, looking back, I mean, obviously historical records going back thousands of years get kind of shaky just because, we aren't able to preserve text that long, and maybe text even didn't exist, but
they did exist. We actually have
for all of human history.
Well, thousands of years, yeah, but not like.
Oh, not going back to Adam in the garden. That's probably true.
But there's evidence of people with assigned male skeletons in traditionally female clothing and attire in burial. And we have the same vice versa. People, this is one of the specific examples I'm thinking of was Norse.
That is such weak tea, by the way. People going like, "Oh, we found a woman's skeleton," and okay, so that means they're trans. They're non-binary, and that they had that ideology. As Michael said, there's people who've been confused about stuff for a long time. There was one goddess that male worshippers would cut off their junk and try to be women or believe that they were women instead, that they were dealing with in like Bible times. So yeah, people with these kind of inclinations and confusions have existed forever, but there's no point that we should be like, but these things are actually true, that you can actually change and be something else. And anyway, let's keep watching.
There was a female skeleton that was buried with traditionally male burial rites and clothing.
How do they know the skeleton's female?
Well, I said female because obviously I believe that gender is something social rather than just biological, but
the scientists were able to identify it by the skeleton.
We know that sex is unambiguous.
Yes.
I don't think we're denying that.
There's this odd idea among conservatives that transgender people don't understand that biological sex exists, or that we're deluded.
Some don't. Some don't. Some do. You obviously do, but some don't.
No.
I mean, I have yet to meet anybody.
I've yet to meet any.
They're wrong. Jeffrey Marsh has a video saying that biological sex isn't real. So you can find them I promise you can find them on TikTok. And Jeffrey Marsh has hundreds of thousands of followers and writes for Rolling Stone, and is, been, had different articles and other stuff about him. He was one of the people who I recently talked to about, because he had a piece in Rolling Stone about the next Benedict situation, and he made it all about him. He really did. So they are very wrong. There are definitely people who believe that they are that sex isn't real. Anyway.
Seen people clipped out of context to look like that, but I haven't.
Those people are talking to me. These are people. I promise you, I've spoken to these people on camera in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, you don't feel that way.
I have
so
never
you're
felt that way.
You're non-binary. You said that you came to this realization at 14.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think kind of pushed you over that edge at 14?
I think intense emotional distress at the prospect of needing to navigate through life being someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's girlfriend, someone's wife, someone's mother. That's just something that wasn't really a role that I wanted to fill, and a role that I felt intensely distressed at the prospect of needing to fulfill.
Why is that?
It's difficult to explain, and would be difficult to explain in a very short period of time. It's just one of those things that you feel deep down in your soul.
You mean it would be difficult to explain even to yourself, or you're just saying it would be difficult to articulate this thing that I
It's
understand?
difficult to articulate. It's kind of an abstract thing.
The cause of gender dysphoria and this discomfort with your sex assigned at birth in these roles is still pretty widely debated, even in the woke scientific community.
Right. And there would seem to be, even among the pro-trans kind of woke,
Yeah.
a presumed plurality, or multiplicity rather, of causes. Like some people can fall into this as a bit of a sexual fetish.
That isn't transgender, though. That's
Some guys who dress up like women will openly state that they're the Wachowski brothers, who are now the Wachowski sisters, said they fell into their transgender identity largely through pornography, and others will say that as well. Now, you might say, well, it wasn't pornography; it was because of, I wanted to wear a dress when I was 4 years old or something. But I'm just saying, in some cases, it would appear to be more of a sexual fetish. For some people, it might be caused by some emotional distress. For some people, it might be caused by any number of other factors. Again, I'm just repeating what I've heard from the left. I'm not even stating.
I mean,
I don't think that the left says that.
The material.
The Wachowski brothers certainly do. And they're
Two
trans.
people.
The most famous
the material
transgender identifying
presence
people in
of
the world.
somebody wearing
That is
a dress with a male body.
wildly false.
The material.
I don't know what she's talking about, because the most famous trans person in the world is Caitlyn Jenner. Really, but the Wachowski brothers did the Matrix. So and yes, they did fall into it from pornography. I saw that interview. It's disgusting. So anyway, we watched the part I wanted to show you guys. So she felt distress from roles that she would have to fulfill by being someone's daughter, someone's girlfriend, someone's mom, someone's wife, or whatever. And can that just be like anxiety or something? Like you have to, you're in some kind of role, period. So you just saying, like, rejecting that, like you're still gonna have, these are like relational kind of roles. Like you're still, regardless how you identify or not, you're still someone's daughter. You exist. Like that's the relation to parent and child is, it's biological, or it can be, determined by legal methods and stuff as well, but you can't get around that. Like it's, so you just decided that it was too much, and you just didn't want to identify in those kind of roles or accept those roles, so you just are like, I'm dipping out, peace, I'm non-binary now. And they want you and I to just be like, okay. That didn't sound like a good reason to to just make up something. And then they were kind enough and to come and talk to Matt, though they were way more emotional during the Q&A, especially the trans woman. But they were nice enough to sit down and have this chat, and civil enough to have this chat, and it's very civil. But the I don't know, the arrogance of the whole sort of ideology, and maybe not her, she wouldn't be like, all, you're saying I don't exist. Maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. But I've heard that so many times from people. I'll say non-binary isn't a thing. You say I don't exist. You're denying my existence. You're the reason why people are going to unalive themselves. What? Because you don't like a role that you have to play as being a daughter? Then get over yourself. Like, just get over yourself. Life's hard. Life is hard. What's the role of the non-binary person? You still present as a woman. People are probably largely going to treat you as a woman. Or just treat you like a normal human being. And then there's some things you're going to be able to do because you're physically a woman. I think she said she didn't want to have kids or anything like that, but there's still some biological realities beyond being able to have kids that are still kind of stuck with women. So you know, you're not going to be dunking on any male teams, anytime soon, for example. It's so bizarre. That's what the ideology is there. That's how she explained that. There were roles I just didn't want to fulfill, and it caused me distress. People have roles that they have to fill all the time, different social obligations to their family, to their churches, to school, etc., that causes all kinds of distress, all kinds of pressure, like real pressure. You're not non-binary, you just need some help, man. Or reality check. Just a reality check, babe. Someone said, so a freshman in high school had an identity crisis. Yeah, because that never happens. Yeah, and then they'll pick, they want to be seen, validated, or whatever. So then they pick something that doesn't exist and then gets upset that people don't go along with it. You're purposely picking the hardest path to be special. And we're the bad guys for not going like, okay, whatever you say, babe. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Anyway, it was a fascinating conversation if you guys want to go back and watch the whole thing. But the Q&A conversation was interesting too. They were far more aggressive. And the interesting thing about the trans thing, them having that conversation about that stuff, is that his whole talk was about abortion. So the girl who says she's non-binary, she actually did ask a question about abortion. The trans person did not. They brought up like some movie that Knowles did when I think he was an implied gay character or something, and when he was in college or something, and he has not been a conservative his whole life. He used to be, liberal back in the day. So it was kind of more like a personal attack than anything. But anyway, you guys can go watch that if you would like. I think I'm gonna, though I am over, I think I want to talk about this as quickly as I can. Lauren Chin posted something the other day that went pretty viral, and she ended up taking it down. And I thought her taking it down was kind of strange. Like, I kind of get why, but we'll just go through it together. So she said, I had a post blow up and go semi-viral, but I was also getting called out by some people in the replies. After considering things, it turns out they were right. Deleted the post, but here it is for reference. So Rihanna, and I did not know that this was Rihanna when I first looked at this. And I'm like, is that a woman? Is that a trans person? Like, I was so confused. I just think it's so not cute. So and then I saw, I'm like, oh, it's Rihanna. And so, she's like a nun or whatever here doing a sexy sort of thing, or she thinks it's supposed to be. Just kind of more sacrilegious, I suppose. But and it was like supposed to be her confession or whatever. So Lauren said, do this in a hijab. I dare you. Now, the reason why Lauren said something like this, and she explains that a bit, but the thought behind this when people do stuff like this is the cult it's easy to mock Christianity. And people will do it to be edgy and provocative. But would they do something like this in hijab? Probably not, for two reasons. One, there is a hierarchy of people who you can make fun of, an oppressed class or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the white Christian or whatever is like top tier for the kind of person that you can go after, especially if you're like a straight white male or something. So yeah, they'll go after you, sure, but a brown Muslim person, probably, like, that's not someone that you, obvious person that you want to go after in the oppression Olympic hierarchy situation. So that's one thing. The culture like frowns upon talking about those kinds of folks. The other reason is because people would be legitimately afraid of the kind of backlash that they might face, like physical kind of violence afraid. So she said, do it in hijab, I dare you. So someone said, why do you always bring Muslims into issues that the Jews create? When Muslims defend their religion, you call them extremists. When Jews disrespect yours, you say, try it with the Muslims. And so they circled the names of the people who helped with this issue, whatever. And there's some people who I guess we're assuming are Jewish and stuff. I haven't looked into the people, but I'm just telling you what the accusation is. So she said, I brought up Muslims because Rihanna always tries to be edgy, but mocking Christianity is the safest thing to do in Hollywood. She's way too cowardly to mock a religion that would actually have consequences for it. Regardless, you know what? You make a good point. She, atheist, disrespects Christianity with Hollywood. I don't know if she does or doesn't identify as an atheist. I don't know if that's true or not, but I wouldn't say she's doing the great thing of faith here. But she, atheist, disrespects Christianity with Hollywood, creative, Jewish, and my first instinct is to bring in Muslims in a negative connotation. I'll take the L. And someone said Muslims ain't perverting their religion. Sorry. So don't bring us into this. Why don't you Christians just defend yours instead of saying, but I dare you to try it with Muslims? They are mopping the floor with Christianity. And if they can't dismantle it, they will pervert it. Wake the bleep up, have some bleeping balls and get angry. Defend your religion. Boycott those Satanists. Protest for your faith. What the bleep is wrong with y'all? So she took down her post and gave that kind of context of why she took it down. So I think her point was valid that she was making, that it's really easy to mock Christianity and that people wouldn't do with Islam. And I don't think, I guess there's anything kind of wrong with that point. And Christians defend Christianity all the time. But her being like, oh, I'll just, to fight and defend the faith. Let me see. I think she wrote another thing under her post to explain it some more. Okay, here we go. The post I made is accurate, but if I'm mad about someone attacking my faith, should the response be to attack another one that has nothing to do with the situation? Islam is not the reason why Hollywood denigrates mock Christianity. So people mocking Christianity, mocking Christians, even persecuting Christians and stuff is not new to Hollywood. It's not new to the culture. It's tale as old as time. Jesus said, they hate me, they'll hate you guys. Like, spoiler alert, he let you know up front that folks weren't going to be too keen on Christianity. So I think it's valid, though, to call out Rihanna, which she did. She said, you're not really edgy for doing this. You're not as edgy as you think. So that is calling her out. She could, I don't know, quote scriptures at her that she probably wouldn't care too much about. That's kind of the attention that she probably wouldn't care about, being convicted in that kind of way. Rebuking her for not being the edgelord that she thinks she is probably the more appropriate kind of call. Not that I think that she would probably care too much what Lauren Chen has to say anyway, but I think people are more likely to be like, hey, you guys aren't that cool. Like JoJo Siwa, she was on Dance Moms. I think she had a show on Nickelodeon, and maybe that's why she exploded. She has like a big line with like bows and sparkles and other kind of stuff, like with Claire's and all kinds of stuff. But she's transitioning into music, but she well, I guess she's been doing music for a minute, but when she was little, I'm like, why is this? She can't sing. I'm like, and you don't want to talk too much about a kid too much sometimes, but I just couldn't understand why. I looked at her music video Boomerang, and I'm like, this isn't like, there are other girls from Dance Moms that had better music videos and better vocals. So I'm like, what? Why is she this famous? I just didn't understand how it happened, and I'm not gonna maybe forgive the world for it. But right now she has a song out that she actually, so another artist did it, a British artist some time ago, but she like bought the song, and it's called Karma. And I haven't seen the full video, and I'm not going to, but she's just, there's all these kind of videos that are all over TikTok. I don't know how she got in my feed, but it's just like nonstop JoJo Siwa stuff. But in different interviews, she's like, I was 2 years ago, I was too kind of afraid of karma, because I was afraid of saying that I was a bad girl. And that the song kind of starts off like, I don't know if it starts with I'm a bad girl, but that's one of the lines, like, I was a bad girl. And she's got still sparkles on her. They're just black. But she's a lesbian. Well, I don't, non-binary, or maybe bisexual, maybe. I don't know if she's lesbian, but she's like, I'm creating a new genre of lesbian pop, and people are like, where have you been? This stuff you're not a new gay icon, like, you're not inventing something. So she's getting roasted all over. But I brought up JoJo because I'm just like, you guys aren't cool because you're horny lesbians. You're not some kind of edgelord because you're going out there kissing girls, and like, sorry, you're like late to the party where people were shocked at that, we're just rolling your eyes at you now. There was a song, I think it was Lecrae, and people don't love Lecrae so much anymore, but I think it was a Lecrae song. It was like Rebellion, that album that came out, and there was a song called Rebellion about like, go read your Bible, be a Christian. That's more rebellious. That's more edgy today than anything else. That's way more edgy than these folks in Hollywood. So if you think you're so cool doing something that you're not supposed to do, no one is impressed with you because you put black gunk on your face and sparkles. And it's funny because she'll do these interviews and she's still in her house or whatever, and she has all these pink toys, brat dolls, and other stuff. She has like a candy room where there's sprinkles on the walls, thousands of them that have been individually painted on. So I'm just like, I cannot take, like, I know I'm saying like so much right now, I'm sorry, but when Michael Jackson has his bad video, he's like, you ain't bad, you ain't nothing, that's what I'm thinking about this little girl. And so that's the case with Rihanna here. Like, that is so not that edgy to mock Christianity. But to call them out and say, you guys are tired, if you really wanted to bump the culture, you could actually submit yourself to Christ and seek the truth instead of your ego. That's what you could do. But bringing up the fact that, like, they wouldn't do it in a hijab brings up interesting points. And I know some of the Muslims are upset and are saying, you go ahead and defend your religion, leave us out of it. And I think it's an important point because there's a whole hierarchy thing, reason why they won't talk about it. But there's also the danger aspect as well. So people won't say anything. So she's bringing them into it, sure, but she is highlighting an issue. Like, Andrew Tate left Christianity. There's several interviews with him talking about giving compliments to Islam because he thinks it'll be the last remaining religion because they will defend their religion. But Christians defend their religion all the time. There's apologists off the wazoo. I follow many. My dad is big into apologetics. I've been studying a lot with apologetics, listening to stuff on Audible and reading all kinds of books, doing research. You guys hear me talk about my faith openly many times on the show. People defend the gospel all the time. We defend the gospel. But what does Andrew Tate mean? He means they'll defend it with violence. And there are videos of him praising them for defending with violence. And I'm not saying that all Muslims are violent, because there's definitely sects that do believe that it's a religion of peace. Muhammad doesn't really make that case, but he really doesn't. But there are people who believe that he does. And Nabil Qureshi, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, he wrote that book. He was best friends with David Wood, passed away some years ago. Incredible testimony, though. I encourage people to seek it out. But he thought, Islam was a religion of peace and so on. And then he had to come to grips with there were things that he believed about Christianity that were wrong. And if the things that were right about Christianity were right, then maybe there's things about Islam that was wrong. And then he had to look into Muhammad, and he realized his beloved prophet wasn't the person who he thought he was. And it was a 4-year journey for him to convert. So it's a very interesting tale. And you can find plenty of videos with him talking about it on YouTube, and which I watched many of them. And I also got his book on Audible, which is really good. So I highly suggest you guys check out that story. And I don't know if you guys can hear my neighbors like outside, but I think it's okay to point out that there is a fear that people have of criticizing Islam, and there is a danger because Christians face that danger. And I did call out her post because my dad has been to Pakistan and had to have armed security because of the dangers that were there. And to just give up and give an altar call is not something you're really supposed to do. That is a danger. My dad would work after he got back home. He started doing these Skype missions with people there. So there'd be a team on the ground, which paying them money to be part of preparing this to happen is a good thing because Christians are heavily persecuted once you convert. And so some of them can't really work or whatever. So they'll, one time they're like, if you could help us, we'd like to just have beans or, and food and stuff. So we're like, oh my gosh, life is really hard for people who are Christians in a Muslim dominant country. So, anyway, one time while they were about to do a Skype thing, my dad was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and it was late starting and stuff because terrorists had come in. They tried to steal their equipment and cut their wires and all kinds of different stuff, and they chased off people with clubs. They threatened the people who worked with my dad, and they said, "We will kill you and we will kill your family." So when Muslims are like, "We'll defend our faith," yeah, they'll defend it from us. They'll defend it with us, from us, at our lives being at risk. So I think that's worth talking about. And she could have maybe expanded that conversation there, but she just deleted the post. And it could lead to other interesting conversations about, because I was going back and forth. Someone came into my comments after I had retweeted her post. And it was a Muslim person. Said he used to follow me for a little bit, but I said, do you really think it's more offensive that Rihanna is wearing a nun's costume? Which, by the way, I'm not Catholic, but not saying it's still right to do whatever. But she's trying to be sacrilegious and edgy. I'm like, is it more disrespectful that she's doing that, or is it more disrespectful that Muslims will say that Jesus never claimed to be God, was never crucified, and didn't rise from the dead? Now, I can understand people not believing that he rose from the dead. I can understand Jews believing that he wasn't divine or whatever. that he wasn't really God, but believing that he wasn't crucified, which is a pretty well established historical fact, or believing that he didn't claim to be God. I'm like, what do you think he was crucified for? What why do you think that he committed blasphemy? Why were people upset? Why were the Pharisees willing to stone him? Because they say it. They say it. So there are plenty instances in the Bible where the Bible makes it clear that he was God, and his followers believed that he was God. I know there's reasons why they can't wrap their minds around the Trinity and other stuff like that, but it doesn't change that claim. Doesn't change that claim. And as I was going back and forth with this person in my comments, they wouldn't address the crucifixion, and they wouldn't address the rising from the dead, which the rising from the dead would have been a more kind of contentious thing for me to have to debate. So I wonder why they didn't go that route. But they're just like, Jesus never claimed to be God. He never claimed to be God. He never claimed to be God. So they'll say, like, we really respect Jesus, and they believe that, and they do hold him in high esteem. But the way I view their interpretation of Jesus, I don't see it as very respectful. It's what they believe if what they believe is accurate, then we are obviously wrong. We cannot hold the same positions at the same time. We can't. We cannot. And they do believe that he's a Messiah, and they do believe that he's coming back again. But they believe that he's coming back again to tell the Christians that they're wrong. So there is like this effort on the right, including from an interview that Tucker Carlson had the other day, to make Christians unalign themselves from, I think, the Jews. So they'll and they're kind of in some situations like, hey, why are you guys so mad at the Jews as opposed to the Muslims? And they respect Jesus. They reverence him in their own way. But from my perspective of the truth, I cannot be like, yeah, I see that as respect. I can't. So if you're saying defend your religion, okay. Jesus is God. Jesus is God. He died on the cross for my sins, and he rose from the dead. And the only way to the Father is through him. That's me defending my faith. And you can boycott Rihanna's music, which I don't listen to Rihanna's music. Umbrella is a bop though, but it's more important to say those other things. And I don't know if everybody watching right now is a Christian. Maybe some of you are Muslim or Jewish. I don't know. But that's the gospel. We speak the truth anyhow. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. It's more than enough. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We also got into a debate about like Aisha and her age, and it was so bizarre. I just want to mention this before I go, because Muhammad married a 9-year-old, and some people will say, well, she was a woman because she had puberty, and that's the route that they went. And I'm like, even if she had puberty, she's still 9, bro. And there's evidence to suggest she was not even in puberty. But they'll go like, whoa, well, Mary was like 12. Like, Bible doesn't say Mary's 12. It doesn't say that. She's this Holy Spirit, when there's prophecy over her, it says she's blessed among women. And we know that Jesus referred to a 12-year-old as a child. So she's not 12, we would assume, but it doesn't say her age. But she still wasn't penetrated by a false prophet. So it doesn't make what they believe better. It's just so bizarre that they go to that route. But they are like defending, like it was different back then anyway. Okay. say so. But they said something that was let me just tell you what they before I let you go. I know I'm doing the preacher multiple closing thing, but they said this last thing to me that was so bizarre. Let me go to my notifications. They said something about me being they said, "Ma'am, this is where the conversation went." They said, "Ma'am, you're a black woman. Your people were stolen from Africa. What age do you think people used to get married at in native African tribes? Look up marriage age across the globe and olden times, significantly younger marriage age. So bleep the bleep out of here." Had to reach back to my heritage to be like, it's totally fine. My prophet porked a 9-year-old. The issue with the is it wrong or is it not wrong? They seem to think that it's not wrong. Um, but the thing about Jesus, the Bible and stuff, is that Jesus is our moral point of authority, and for them, their moral point of authority is Muhammad. So it was just cool back then. You didn't know that it wasn't cool. So reach back to Africa. So anyway, thank you guys. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website. Check out different merch on the store as well. And I will make a post about the coupon for my sister's store. I hope you guys, hopefully some of you would check out some of her art and purchase it from her. God bless you guys, and I will catch you tomorrow.